Hi guys, it's me, ChazzaHD, and welcome to yet another Grand Prix weekend in 2026. It is the ninth Grand Prix of the season, and it is the British Grand Prix at Silverstone, a very hot Silverstone this weekend. And thankfully, it is looking like an exciting, close weekend so far. We've had, obviously, plenty of running so far at Silverstone. We had sprint qualifying yesterday, had a sprint race earlier today, and I will go through, of course, the results of that sprint shortly and how that affects the championship standings, and it does affect it a bit. um, so, yeah, we'll go through that soon enough. But yeah, weather looks pretty much perfect at Silverstone. Pretty much is all across the UK at the minute, and yeah, looks like a good weekend of competitive battling. Whether it's qualifying or for the race, will be commencing. And yeah, it's been a good Grand Prix event so far. And for today, the qualifying session at Silverstone, I am certainly expecting a very exciting conclusion to today's action. It was very close in sprint qualifying yesterday, not just in the fight for pole, but the fight from third all the way down to eighth on the grid. So, yeah, it's going to be a very close Q3 later on this afternoon. Qualifying, of course, taking place a bit later today than usual for the European races. An hour later, for example, than it was in Austria or Spain or Monaco. 4 p.m., obviously, local time. Qualifying gets underway, which, as you can see, is in just under an hour and a half from now. And yeah, cannot wait to get into it here at Silverstone. Hope you guys are all well after the last Grand Prix. And yeah, fingers crossed this will be a really good qualifying session for us today. And yeah, be great to have you along, joining us for watching along and enjoying qualifying at Silverstone. No matter what time zone you're in or what part of the world you're from, hope you're all having as best time as possible. And yeah, hope you can join me today in enjoying and watch along qualifying. In regards to the sprint race, I'll just go through quickly the top 8 in terms of how it finished. So Kimi Antonelli won the sprint by about 2.5 seconds from Lewis Hamilton in second. Lando Norris, brilliant drive, finished in third. And then it was Russell fourth, Leclerc fifth, Max Verstappen sixth, Piastri seventh, and Liam Lawson, brilliant drive, eighth. Racing Bulls again, looking quick. One thing I do want to say, which is a concern for me for the race tomorrow, and it's partly why I'm not doing a race watch along tomorrow. We saw a lot of overtaking in the sprint, but a lot of it was that yo-yo Mario Kart bullshit that we saw in the first 3 races, and I'm really not looking forward to more of that tomorrow. When Antonelli overtook Hamilton for the lead of the sprint, Antonelli had a 40km/h advantage over Lewis Hamilton down the hangar straight. I mean, that's just ridiculous. To have that type of speed advantage purely because Hamilton ran out the battery and Antonelli had more battery plus overtake boost. And again, it's just Mario Kart stuff. Oh, I've got the boost and you haven't. I've got more battery and you haven't. It's not real racing. So if you go back and watch the sprint, if you haven't watched it, just bear that in mind when you're watching the overtake, because a lot of it is just battery games. A lot of it is not really real racing. And yeah, I think it might really affect tomorrow's British Grand Prix. Of course, commentators Crofty and Brundle on Sky F1, they made out it was amazing and fantastic, and oh, how great is this for tomorrow's race? And yeah, just complete rubbish. Just artificial nonsense, quite frankly. The reason it's a lot of a problem, or as big of a problem here, despite the changes being made to the engines that were made after the Japanese Grand Prix, is because here at Silverstone, you are on throttle for, I think, 80% of the lap. So there's basically, no time for the battery really to properly recharge. And thankfully, those changes were made after Suzuka, because if they weren't, imagine how bad it would be. If we had what we had previously, it'd be absolutely disgracefully bad. If it was what we had previously. So, yeah, that's really ruining, I think, the spectacle this weekend. Thankfully, next season, in this area, the regulations are changing in regards to the ICE, carrying more of the load in terms of the power output rather than the electrical side. So this won't be as big of an issue next year or the year after. And then, of course, according to the FIA president, we're moving to V8 engines in 2030 or 2031. So going forward, this will be less of an issue, thankfully. But in terms of this weekend, just bear that in mind, the whole battery stuff. Because when you see one driver blasting past another one easily, it's not because, they're a lot quicker. It's most likely just because one driver has run out of battery and the other hasn't. It's sad, it being that way, but that is unfortunately just the way it is this weekend. But yeah, those are the results from the sprint race. We'll get into how those affect the championship standings in just a moment. Before I get into that, though, final thing I want to say is there is a poll running, of course, in the chat. Let me know, who do you think will take pole position today at Silverstone? Will it be Kimi Antonelli, Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, or Max Verstappen? Out of those four, who do you think takes pole position? I think it's very likely going to be either Antonelli or Hamilton, because those two have looked like the clear two best drivers really this weekend. But if you think it's going to be Russell or Verstappen, or even Leclerc or one of the McLaren drivers, then post a comment in the chat saying that you think one of those will get on pole position. Let me know. Between now and the start of Q3 in a couple hours' time. But let's just get into it. And we'll get into the championship standings now coming out of the sprint. So Kimi Antonelli wins the sprint, first ever win in a sprint race for Antonelli, and he's now 43 points clear of George Russell, who has not had a good weekend so far. He's been miles off the pace that he should be doing. Lewis Hamilton had a great weekend so far. Obviously finished second in the sprint, and he's only 4 points behind Russell. Still keeping tabs with the two Mercedes drivers. Lando Norris, after his brilliant third place, is now up to fourth in the Drivers' Championship, the world champion, getting into the top four. Highest now he's been in the championship all season. Leclerc into fifth. Piastri was in fourth coming into the weekend, but now drops down to sixth for now. Of course, we don't know what's going to happen in tomorrow's race, so maybe he'll go back up there by the conclusion of the Grand Prix tomorrow. Max Verstappen only scored 3 points in the sprint, so he is seventh, despite starting third on the grid. Isaac Hadjar didn't score a point, so he's eighth and only 1 point clear of Pierre Gasly. And Liam Lawson scored the final point, and he is 1 point closer to Pierre Gasly, only 10 points behind. Given how quick Racing Bulls look at the minute, I wouldn't be surprised at this point if Lawson does finish ninth in the championship, because Racing Bulls are looking so quick. And then on the constructors' side, Mercedes 100 points exactly clear of Ferrari. So Mercedes really cementing their dominant lead in the Constructors' Championship. Of course, Mercedes are the clear favourites to win the Constructors' title. McLaren third. McLaren not too far behind Ferrari in points. 50? No, not 50. About 48 points, I think, behind. So, yeah, McLaren, despite having a clearly slower car, still keeping tabs with the Scuderia. And Red Bull then you've got in fourth, who obviously didn't score that many points in the sprint. And then all of the midfield teams failed to score points, except for Racing Bulls, who scored 1 point. So Alpine are in fifth, 12 points clear of Racing Bulls, who will probably score another 3 points minimum tomorrow. So Racing Bulls very well could be 5th in the championship very soon. And then Haas 7th, Williams 8th, Audi 9th, Aston Martin 10th, and Cadillac 11th. From Haas down, I'll be honest, all of those teams, Haas, Williams, Audi, and of course Aston Martin, Cadillac, none of them look likely to score a point at the minute. And it's not because of, bad reliability or bad luck. They just don't have the pace, quite simply. And the only teams, or not even the only teams, the only team from the midfield that looks like it's got the pace to score points is Racing Bulls. Even Alpine in the sprint were, I think, half a second a lap off the pace of just Racing Bulls alone. So, yeah, it really, the midfield is very spread apart pace-wise at the minute, which is disappointing. Of course, it will close up. There is no doubt about that. It will close up. Not only as the season goes on, but next season, the season after, it'll get a lot more exciting. But Racing Bulls looks so much quicker this weekend than the rest of the midfield teams, to the point where I think Racing Bulls are probably in tomorrow's race, if it's a clean green flag race with no safety cars or red flags. Racing Bulls are probably going to lap probably the Williams, maybe even the Haas cars. They're that much quicker than them. The pace difference is, enormous. But again, that's how the sprint affects things, championship-wise, and we'll see, obviously, what the championship looks like after tomorrow's race. But let's get into the sprint qualifying data and look at really the data from that session, because and this is just the usual thing when it comes to sprint weekends, is on sprint weekends we get a lot more representative data early on of truly how quick certain teams are. And here at Silverstone, Hamilton and Antonelli have been clearly the two best drivers throughout the whole field in terms of battling up front. Hamilton taking the pole for the sprint race of 128.3. Brilliant lap by Hamilton, as you can see, only 0.011 of a second quicker than Antonelli. And as you'll see in a moment, Lewis Hamilton was not quickest in any of the sectors in qualifying, yet he ended up on pole, which is the hallmark of a truly elite driver to go and do that. But Hamilton has been on fire all weekend. He has looked so incredibly quick, and I don't think his pace is because the Ferrari car is actually much quicker this weekend than expected. I'd say it's probably a tad quicker than I expected, but he is just driving so well this weekend and just at the minute in general. That's why he has shown the pace he has so far. That's why he's been able to take on Antonelli and properly fight him on pace, and even have a bit of a fight in the sprint race as well. It's been incredible to witness, and not just incredible to witness, so pleasing to witness, seeing Lewis Hamilton back to the Lewis Hamilton of old. This is the Hamilton we were all desperate to see when he joined Ferrari, and we've got it. And if he keeps this up the entire Grand Prix weekend, you never know, maybe he will end up winning the race tomorrow if he does get a bit of luck going his way as well. But in terms of who has the fastest car, I do still think it is the Mercedes, which I will showcase to a degree with the sector time data from sprint qualifying. And I think the sprint race did also kind of show that Mercedes do still, I wouldn't say clearly have the best car, but still comfortably enough, they are the team to beat, I would say. So that again just exemplifies what a magnificent job Lewis Hamilton did in sprint qualifying yesterday to get on pole. Can he do it again today for the proper Grand Prix? Absolutely he can, but whether he will, it's going to be very close between him and Antonelli, and maybe George Russell, if he can, improve and get in there, which he should. But yeah, a great battle up there between Hamilton and Antonelli. And then the rest of the field, as you can see, from Max Verstappen third to his teammate Isaac Hadjar in eighth, it's only, 0.13 of a second separating all of those cars. So that is just fantastic to see. All of them so close. But it is helped by a couple drivers performing quite poorly, quite frankly, and that is the Ferrari of Leclerc and the Mercedes of George Russell. There's just no reason for Leclerc to be 3/10 off Hamilton. For Hamilton to be quicker, yeah, you could accept that. I mean, he was quicker than Leclerc here last year, even, despite having a poor season. So, Leclerc being slower is not the issue. Being nearly 3.5 tenths slower is the issue. He should be a tenth, maybe slower, and should be comfortably third in this session. There's no way he should be that far off the pace of his teammate. And the same goes for George Russell, and I think I'd have to be even more harsh with him because Antonelli, I don't think is driving at as high of a level as Lewis Hamilton is. But also, this is George Russell's home race. How on earth are you 3.5 tenths slower than Antonelli around your home track? A track where you've took pole position before, a track where you've always been generally pretty quick. Again, why are you so far off the pace? I just don't get it. Even in the sprint race, Russell was, half a second a lap off the pace? Maybe more? Just not good enough. So both Leclerc and Russell have really got to step it up in qualifying because both drivers are not performing anywhere near good enough. Especially Russell, again, given it's his home race and given that he is, trying to win a world championship. He's now 43 points behind his teammate after the sprint. Obviously won the last Grand Prix. Needs to keep the momentum going, but if he's going to be this far off the pace of his teammate, then unless Antonelli has a massive issue this, qualifying or into the race, I just don't see how Russell can possibly get near Antonelli. I mean, if that sprint race, if that had been a full 52-lap race, Russell would have ended up probably half a minute behind his teammate. That's how slow he was. So, yeah, we need a massive improvement from Russell. We really do. Because, yeah, just nowhere near the level required, unfortunately. 6th and 7th, 6-7, the two McLarens of Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, of course, who took a 1-2 at this Grand Prix a year ago. A year ago, a long time ago, if you're a McLaren, because now they are struggling to even get in the top 5 of the grid. Brilliant performance by Norris in the sprint, though. What a start he had. He was up to third, I think, by the exit of turn 1. So, an electric start, no pun intended. And a brilliant drive in the race, despite having to save some fuel at the end, because McLaren accidentally underfueled him slightly, which made things a bit tough towards the end. But, yeah, McLaren, they're closer on pace than I expected to the 3 teams ahead of them, but they are still looking like they're probably the slowest of the 4, maybe slightly quicker than Red Bull, but still behind Red Bull because, Max Verstappen is clearly a faster driver than the 2 McLaren drivers. So, yeah, in terms of where they are position-wise, it's not really a surprise, to be honest. Isaac Hadjar then 8th. A shame with Hadjar that he had a poor start to the sprint, because if he had at least kept ahead of the midfield, he could have joined in with some of that battling early on and maybe, been close behind his teammate and maybe got a couple points on the board for that sprint. But yeah, he just cannot get good starts at the minute. The Red Bull, but both Red Bulls got poor starts, and the Red Bull generally just isn't that good off the line at the minute. Um, and that's something Red Bull have got to improve, because even if they get good grid positions like they did with Max Verstappen, then they're just losing it all, by the time they get to the first proper corner. And then completing the top 10, the two Racing Bull cars. Liam Lawson, ninth, and Arvid Lindblad, 10th. Lawson only just over half a second off the pole position. Incredible pace by Lawson in the Racing Bulls. And just to illustrate how, what do you call it? Just to illustrate how incredibly quick Racing Bulls have been this weekend. Let me just go to the results quickly on my end. Yeah, Lawson did a 128.9 in sprint qualifying. The next midfield car that isn't a Racing Bulls was Gasly in 11th, who was half a second slower. So they are literally half a second quicker than the next team. I am just amazed by how quick they are right now. With the pace they're showing at the minute, I think they'll probably be the best midfield team for the rest of the season. I don't really see any team getting close to them at the minute. They are just incredible with the pace they've got. But the rest of the field, you had Gasly in 11th, 12th and 13th, the two Audis. I've got to admit, disappointed with Audi. I really thought they'd be a bit better here and would be at least close to the top 10, but absolutely nowhere near. Bortoletto, 7/10 slower than Lawson in qualifying. Colapinto 14th, and then the two Williamses, 15th and 16th. Better than the last Grand Prix in Austria, but still, they are so far off the pace. 17th and 18th, the two Haases. I didn't expect Haas to be that quick here, but wow, 17th and 18th, that is absolutely diabolical from them. Sergio Perez then 19th, Valtteri Bottas 20th, and then of course two Aston Martins at the very back. Aston Martin, by the way, 1.1 seconds slower than Cadillac in sprint qualifying. I think that says it all about them. But let's get into the sector time data just to illustrate how Mercedes, despite not getting the pole in the sprint qualifying session yesterday, still overall had the best car. There you go. It has now gone to the Sector 1 data. Bit of a delay there, unfortunately. So yeah, this is the first sector time. First sector is pretty simple. You're flat out from the start-finish line until turn 3. Turn 3 and 4, pretty slow and pedestrian, and then you're flat out until the end of the first sector. Not much of a difference between Mercedes and Ferrari, but Mercedes a couple hundredths quicker. Red Bull and McLaren about a tenth or just under a tenth off. But not much really covering the top 4 teams. Racing Bulls, though, pretty quick in the first sector, and so are Alpine, only 2/10 off, and then a big drop-off to then Williams and Audi, nearly half a second off the pace. And then Cadillac, look at them. A tenth quicker than Haas in the first sector. Incredible pace. Cadillac, they brought a big upgrade package to the last Grand Prix, but because the last track is not really a track that really illustrates clearly, whether upgrades have worked, we didn't really get to see Cadillac, we didn't get to see whether there was a true, big improvement there. But clearly, Cadillac have closed the gap to the back of the midfield. There is no doubt about that. But Haas, still very disappointing their pace. A second slower than Mercedes in just the first sector. And nearly a second slower than Racing Bulls even in just the first sector. Their car is a disaster at the minute, and it's because they went the wrong way with their upgrades that they brought to the Miami Grand Prix. And actually, In sprint qualifying, Oliver Behrman did a 1:31.0. That is 2.1 seconds slower, not than pole. That's 2.1 seconds slower than Racing Bulls. That is how slow they are. That is ridiculous, quite frankly. And then middle sector. This is really the middle sector where you get to see the car differences around this track. Not only is it the longest sector, but it's where a lot of those high-speed corners are. You know, Cops, Maggots, Beckett's, Chapel, all of that. Brilliant part of the lap. And Mercedes still quicker than Ferrari, but still only by a couple hundredths. So after the first two sectors, Mercedes are overall half a tenth quicker than Ferrari. And then a drop-off of a quarter of a second between Mercedes and Red Bull. And McLaren, 3/10 off the pace. So really illustrating just the difference there around this track this weekend between the Mercedes and the Ferrari car, down to the Red Bull and McLaren. Racing Bulls looking pretty quick in this part of the lap. Audi a lot quicker than they were in the first sector, at least. Alpine, okay. Williams, not too bad. Haas, a lot better. And then obviously a big drop-off then to Cadillac, and then another big drop-off to Aston Martin. By the way, with Aston Martin, there's an onboard video of Lance Stroll from the sprint race that is currently going a bit viral on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. If you do, or if you are able to find it, you will see through watching that on board that Stroll had so much understeer in his car, he was having to go full lock through Cops and the Maggots and Beckett's and Chapel section and Stowe just to get his car through the corner. It was mental to see. Absolutely mental. I have never seen a car have to go full lock through those corners. That car is not only the worst car of all time, it is, quite frankly, dangerous at this point. It's a death trap. It is, yeah, just from what I saw, again, if anyone watch it, if you see the video, you will be gobsmacked out at the onboard of that Aston Martin. It is just, yeah, unbelievable. Unbelievable. And then the final sector, McLaren, for some reason, a lot quicker in the final sector, which I don't really understand why, because the final sector is not really that much different from the first sector. And in the first sector, they're the slowest of the front four teams and about a tenth off the pace. So I don't know if it's because they're keeping their tyres in better condition towards the end of the lap, keeping their tyres more alive. That might be it. But yeah, McLaren, for some reason, suddenly the quickest team in the final sector. Mercedes, though, again, still quicker than Ferrari. So in all three sectors of the lap, Mercedes are quicker than Ferrari, yet Hamilton was the one on pole. It is important to remember, though, this data that I'm showing you, this is the best sector times that each team did through the entirety of qualifying, not just on their best laps. So please do remember that. But again, it just shows how amazing a lap that was from Hamilton. Slower than the Mercedes in all three sectors, yet was on pole. That's what the truly elite of our sport do. Racing Bulls, incredibly quick. Pace from them. Quicker than Red Bull and only half a tenth off McLaren. And then a bit of a drop-off then to Audi. Then a massive drop-off for some reason to Alpine. Nearly 3/10 off the pace of just Audi even. And then Williams. And then Cadillac slightly by 0.06 of a second quicker than Haas. And then Aston Martin, of course, the slowest team. So if Cadillac can hook up their absolute best lap, They won't be quicker than Haas because Haas are just too quick in the middle sector, but they could be a lot closer to them, no doubt. And maybe even split the Haas cars in qualifying. Again, if they can hook up the best 3 sectors possible. So watch out for Cadillac. 19th and 20th. Maybe they can make it 18th and 20th. Or maybe even 17th. You never know. But we'll just go back to this top 10 here. So yeah, in terms of the pecking order, Mercedes I do think have the best car, but it's not by a lot. We're talking maybe a 1/10 of a second at most, but it is close enough that with how great Hamilton is driving this weekend, he can make that difference to get on pole. If the Mercedes was another 1/10 or so quicker than it is, I think Hamilton just wouldn't have enough to get onto pole position, but it is close enough that it is absolutely possible that Lewis Hamilton will take pole position for the British Grand Prix. So watch out for what Hamilton can do today. But the Mercedes and the Ferrari cars are clearly the 2 quickest cars. 3rd quickest, I would say, is probably the McLaren. But again, the Red Bull is close enough on pace to the McLaren where Red Bull can still be ahead of McLaren because they have Max Verstappen. So we've got kind of 2 little races there. You've got, Mercedes and Ferrari, then Red Bull and McLaren. And then for the midfield, again, clearly Racing Bull's 5th quickest. 6th quickest, looks like it's Alpine. 7th, Audi. 8th, Williams. And then 9th, Haas. 10th, Cadillac. And obviously Aston Martin at the very back. In the sprint, by the way, as well, Sergio Perez was lapped, but he did lose a lot of time, I think, from pitting. Or he had a brake issue, which I think really is what caused him to get lapped. But Lance Stroll actually did get lapped in that sprint race, and that was not because he had any problems with his car, it was because he was just that slow. So, yeah, Aston Martin in the race tomorrow, they are going to end up probably 3 or 4 laps down by the end of the race. They are just so bad. So bad. I am going to do a video, by the way, maybe in the summer break or maybe at the end of the season, but I'm definitely going to do a video about why Aston Martin have built the worst car of all time, because we need to just not examine why, but just illustrate why it is the worst car of all time by looking at, how regularly far off the pace they are compared to Cadillac, how many laps down they've ended, and just the joke grip wise that this car is. So yeah, we've got to have a look at that. So that will be a video coming on the channel very soon. Maybe at the summer break, we'll see. But with all that data, I have come up with a top 10 qualifying prediction of my own, and let's get into that prediction. So I think because Antonelli is still looking very quick and Mercedes are still very quick, I think Antonelli is going to be a bit of a party pooper today. And I think he will just about take pole position for the British Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton, though, will be very close in second. Hamilton or Antonelli, if you bet on either of them to get pole, you've got a pretty good chance of being correct. It is that close. So I wouldn't be surprised if Hamilton did end up on pole position. Third, I'm going to go Max Verstappen, because I still think with how quick he is around this track, with that car, I still think he can get third on the grid. Russell, this time I'm going to go in fourth, with Leclerc fifth, and then I'm going to go Norris sixth. Isaac Hadjar, I'm going to go up in seventh, a slight bit better than he did in sprint qualifying. Piastri eighth, and then the final 2 cars in the top 10 will obviously be Lawson and Lindblad. So that's my top 10. Let me know whether you agree or disagree. Again, there is a poll running in the chat where you can let me know Who do you think takes pole position today? Will it be Kimi Antonelli or will it be the home driver, Lewis Hamilton? Will it be the other home driver, George Russell? Or will it be Max Verstappen, who, of course, took pole position at this Grand Prix a year ago? So let me know your thoughts going into qualifying, as I'll just wait for the timer. I'll wait for the next minute to tick over, then I'll get the timer back on the screen. And there you go. So we've got 54 minutes to go until qualifying is underway at a very hot and very packed Silverstone. Crofty was saying on the Sky F1 commentary during the sprint that they're expecting, I think, 550,000 people to attend the British Grand Prix over the course of the weekend, which would be a record for a Formula One event. I gotta say, I don't know how Silverstone do it with their extortionate prices, but the people just keep coming. So I guess keep pumping the prices up. But yeah, there you go. And before I go any further, make sure, guys, to subscribe to the channel if you are new for more content like this. As well, for everyone watching, make sure to smash the like button. It obviously does help the channel in the algorithm. And also, because I saw this earlier in the chat, shout out to Brabamars, obviously regular in the chat, who says, I'm in hospital with my missus. Had our second daughter on Thursday. Massive congratulations, mate, honestly, for you and your entire family. Just, yeah, massive congrats. Hopefully you're doing well. Hopefully your partner's doing well. And your new kid. And, yeah, hopefully you have a good weekend, mate. Really hope you're doing well. And hope everyone's doing well. But, yeah, really great news. So, yeah, thanks for letting us know that. And hello to everyone else, of course, in the chat. And we will get to your comments soon. Hello to Yanni, Vettel Hamilton, Astro, Brooke, F11244 as well. And anyone else or everyone else watching. Again, hello to all of you. Hope you're all having a good Saturday as we build up to qualifying. But yeah, I just wanted to, before I read any comments, I just wanted to quickly go through why I'm not doing a race watch along tomorrow. Yeah, well, there's 3 reasons I would say. A small reason is the battery games we saw in the sprint earlier. I think it's just going to ruin the spectacle of the British Grand Prix, you know, with the Mario Kart racing, basically. Another pretty big reason is, yeah, I need to dedicate some more time to my uni work at the minute because we're only a few weeks away from the end of a semester and we're currently really hard working on an assignment at the minute. And yeah, I need to dedicate quite a bit of time to that to obviously get it up to standard and, you know, make sure it's good enough so I get a good grade. And obviously, you know, taking a day away from streaming, it does help offer up more time to, you know, do that. And then another big and the last reason why I'm not doing a race watch along tomorrow is because of the England World Cup game, which there was rumours that it was going to be kickoff time was going to be moved to 1 o'clock in the not to 1 o'clock in the morning, to 7 p.m. UK time on Sunday night, which would be tomorrow night. But now the kickoff time has remained as is, so it will kick off at 1 a.m. on Monday morning. But unfortunately, there is quite a high chance of thunderstorms and heavy rain, so it could end up being delayed into the early hours of Monday morning. going to make Monday morning a pretty depressing one here in the UK, or well, not in the UK, but here in England, if we end up losing, which we probably will, given how we've played. But yeah, there's just no way I'd be able to do a stream for the British Grand Prix and stay up for that. There's just no way. So, that coupled with the need to also, dedicate a bit more time to my uni work. That's why I'm not doing a race watch along tomorrow. But one thing I can announce is that the next Grand Prix on the calendar, which is in 2 weeks' time, the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa, the chances of a race watch along for that race, I would say, are very high. Very high. So, chances are that the race watch along will return in 2 weeks' time at Spa. And then for Hungary, we'll have to see. Depends on the weather and, to a degree, what the field is looking like as well. But yeah, I'd say there's probably a 90 or even a 95% chance that I'm going to do a race watch along for the Belgian Grand Prix, along with, of course, a qualifying watch along as well. So yeah, don't worry. Race watch along's not going anywhere. It will be back very, very soon. And another thing I wanted to quickly update in case anyone missed this news that I kind of announced last week is that, yeah, at the minute there is not going to be any recorded video content on the channel, and that's because I am currently in the process of editing and getting ready a few videos for the summer break, which of course is in just over 3 weeks, I think, until the summer break begins. So yeah, I'm just in the process of getting content ready for that break, and then when we get to the summer break, there should be 3 or 4 videos for you guys over that summer break until we get to the Dutch Grand Prix, which is at the very end of the summer break on the I think penultimate weekend of August. So yeah, that is the content plan for the next few weeks. So yeah, no race watch along tomorrow, sadly. But remember, I will be doing my podcast on Monday, where I will review the British Grand Prix. So if you want my thoughts of whatever happens tomorrow, check out the podcast. I'll try and get that uploaded on Monday evening. And then, yeah, there won't be any content then after that until the Belgian Grand Prix. And then, like I said, very likely I will be doing both a qualifying and race watch along for the Belgian Grand Prix. So make sure to join me for that. Looking forward to going back to Spa yet again, and hopefully we'll have a bit of a change up in the weather. But given how the weather is at the minute in Western Europe, I don't think there probably will be. But yeah, let's have a look at some of your comments in the chat, and then we'll get into some other things before the build up here. Astro, good to see you, says hoping Piastri gets pole, but if not him, then Lewis, please. Love to see Hamilton fight back and win at home if possible. I mean, I think it would be better to see Hamilton win here just because it would be great to see him pick up another win at Silverstone. And also, keep the gap, in the championship close-ish still with Antonelli. Because Hamilton is, 47 points behind, I think he is. So if he was to win the race tomorrow and Antonelli finished second, the gap would go down to 40 points between the two. So it'd be nice from a championship perspective as well. But Lewis is going to have to drive insanely well if he's going to have, going to win the race tomorrow. Vettel Hamilton says, I'm running out of patience towards George Russell. He hasn't dwell in these new regulations at all. I think it might mean done well in these new regulations. So I think that's might be what you were trying to say. Yeah, he just hasn't had a good enough season. We've had race weekends where he's been quick, but still lacked pace in the races. But there's been also too many weekends where he's just been anonymous, and this feels like another one of those weekends where he can't afford to be like that. He really can't. Um, and yeah, if Antonelli does win the race tomorrow, which I think is, I wouldn't say pretty likely, but I wouldn't be surprised, and I don't think anyone would be surprised if Antonelli did win the race tomorrow, given how quick Mercedes and Antonelli look. If Russell can't finish any higher than third, then the gap's going to go up to 53 points between the two, and we're nearly halfway through the season. So, yeah. For me, Antonelli is the clear favourite to win the championship. I don't see George Russell beating Antonelli because I think Kimi is just too quick consistently, especially in the races. The only hope of Antonelli not winning the championship is either if Ferrari bring another big upgrade that pushes them into the position of having the best car, or if Red Bull somehow themselves bring a big upgrade that pushes them into that position, and maybe Max Verstappen can then go on a crazy, run of winning races like he did towards the end of last season. But those two things are not, I think, super likely. So yeah, Antonelli, I think at this point, especially if he wins tomorrow, I think he's the clear favourite to win this championship. And if he does win tomorrow, it does buy Antonelli a bit of breathing room to where he doesn't need to win maybe the next couple races after this weekend. So, yeah, looking very good is the Italian. Vettel Hamilton asking, do you think Max Verstappen is going to McLaren? The reason that they're asking that is because it actually was revealed that Max had talks with McLaren or Zach Brown, and it was prompted by the uh, Verstappen camp, which was surprising. No, I don't think he is going to McLaren for a couple reasons. One, Mercedes have got a faster car, clearly faster car, and I think are the safer bet at the minute to be world champions for the next few years. And I think Max, I think the number one place he wants to go to if he leaves Red Bull is Mercedes. But also, I'm not sure. I mean, McLaren, they would be stupid if Max did offer himself to McLaren. McLaren would be stupid not to hire him because he's the best driver on the grid. But I don't think McLaren are gonna wreck their, their driver pairing in terms of throwing it up in the air as to whether they're going to keep Norris and Piastri as a lineup because Max might join them. If Max offers a guarantee that, he is going to join McLaren, then I think Zach then will make the decision, most likely to get rid of Piastri, because Norris obviously won the championship last year, and Norris has been better than Piastri, since they've obviously started being teammates. So, but again, unless Max makes that absolute commitment and signs on the dotted line, yes, I am joining McLaren, then I don't think Zach is going to be casting any doubt, if you know what I mean, on his driver lineup. I am still pretty confident that Max Verstappen is going to Mercedes. I am, I'd say 75% confident that. I just, I don't see why he wouldn't go to Mercedes. I think he is having doubts about Red Bull and their ability to build fast enough cars going forward you know, to for him to be able to win championships. Toto Wolff, we know, has always wanted Max Verstappen. He's been hunting Verstappen for 12 years or more in terms of his signature. And also, you have to remember, Mercedes are a team that like to have the two most competitive drivers they can have in their car. They had Hamilton and Russell. Now they got Russell and Antonelli. Back in the day, it was Hamilton and Rosberg. Yeah, they had the Hamilton and Bottas situation, but the reason they went for Bottas is because he was the quickest and easiest option, really, that they had to replace Rosberg, who suddenly retired at the end of 2016, and no one expected that. So, yeah, I think Mercedes, especially with the way George Russell's performing, even though Russell has said, "Oh, I'm 100% staying at Mercedes," even though I haven't talked to Toto about it, which tells you everything you need to know about about that situation. Yeah, I just don't see why Mercedes would not hire Max Verstappen as their driver alongside Kimi Antonelli. It's the most competitive driver lineup they could probably have out of all the drivers on the grid. I don't think they could really get any better than Verstappen and Antonelli as a partnership. And again, Mercedes are, I would say, likely to have the best car, going into next season, and have most likely the best chance of providing championship material going forward, at least for the next 2-3 years. So, yeah. I am, by the way, going to make a video on that whole situation in terms of Verstappen to Mercedes. That will be a video that I will be putting out in the summer break. So, yeah, just to announce that, yeah, that will be one of the videos in the summer break. If you're wondering what the videos of the summer break are going to be, the first one will be a mid-season driver ranking. The second one is going to be probably that Verstappen and Mercedes video. The third one is going to be a revised F1 2027 driver lineup prediction video. Because obviously I did one last summer, which, not sure looking back now, it was quite accurate in terms of what it looks like it's going to be. So that's why I'm doing a revised prediction. And then the fourth video probably will be that Aston Martin worst car of all time video. Maybe if I've got time, I'll get another video out as well. But yeah, those are looking like the 4 videos that will be heading your way during late July and most of August. Yanni, yeah, good to see you. Saying I'm having a quiet Saturday, decided to check into the 2026 F1 shit show I have been dreaming of. High revving, naturally aspirated V8 motors, lol. Well, V8s, according to the FIA president, are coming in a few years. So it will get better, but yeah. We just got to go through this pain at the minute, unfortunately. G Walker, hello to you. Don't think I've seen you for a couple races, but good to see you anyway. Astro gives his prediction. Hamilton on pole, and then Antonelli second, and then Piastri, Norris, Leclerc, Verstappen, and then Hadjar, Lindblad, Betterman, Bortoletti, Hulkenberg. If Haas got in the top 10, I think they would cry, given how far off the pace they are. And yeah, KH saying have no dispute with Astro's prediction. Astro says, if Piastri beats Norris this year, then I reckon McLaren should replace Lando with Verstappen. If he does join them, there's no way that's going to happen. I mean, even if Piastri beats Norris, there's no way they're going to get rid of Norris. And the reason is quite simple. Lando is, that's his team. That is Lando Norris's team. And even if Piastri does beat him in, at the end of this season, Norris has a world championship. Oscar Piastri doesn't. If Max goes to McLaren, he will replace Oscar Piastri 100,000,000%. And I know that's disappointing to hear if you're a Piastri fan, but that is just the cold hard reality if that does happen. But um in terms of Piastri though, if that did happen, surely he would then go to Red Bull, because I mean that's the obvious choice, isn't it? And that is really what the most interesting part of the Max Verstappen saga is if he does leave Red Bull, who will replace him? Will it be a straight swap, or will Red Bull keep it in-house and put, I don't know, Lawson or Sonoda into that Red Bull next season? I think they're more likely to swap with whoever Max replaces at McLaren or Mercedes. So yeah, we will see what happens. Um, in regard to the Max Verstappen situation, but yeah, I'm very interested to see if he does leave, what happens at Red Bull. Very interested to see what happens there. G Walker says Max for pole. Yes, the boost is an issue explained by Chaz. The commentators get carried away with the drama. Bullshit is right. Well, it's because when you're watching the racing, you're like, "Oh, this is absolutely fantastic." And even me and Nib, when I remember commentating on the Japanese Grand Prix earlier this year, we were kind of like that. But then immediately kind of realised that wasn't actually a proper overtake. That was just because he had more battery, and yeah. And then you just very quickly realise actually, it's kind of like I'd say for the minute, this is probably the best way I can describe it. It's kind of like when you're having a dream about something that is so good and like almost like a utopian type situation. Say it's you having a dream about your biggest dream, or you having a dream about something that you really hope does happen in your future. But then after a few minutes, you realize this is a dream, this isn't real. That's kind of how I feel when I watch that type of racing. It's like, oh, this is great, and oh, actually, no, it's because that guy ran out of battery and the other one has it, and oh, right, this is actually just a load of rubbish. That's the best way to describe how I feel about it. But I will get onto more of your comments soon, so keep them coming, guys, as I am just going to post a link of the stream out one final time before we get into qualifying. We're only half an hour away now from start of the session. Let me just post this out. Come join us here to Watchalong qualifying at Silverstone. So there you go. Hopefully we'll get some more jumping on soon. What we're going to do is I'll read a few more of your comments. Like I said, keep them coming. And then we're going to do a roundup of the teams soon. And I'll go through, obviously, what each team should be aiming for this session. All right. Yeah, let me just read a few of these comments out. Sarah Gara saying franchise guys a thing in sports, lol. It is. If you look at across all sports, basketball, NFL, I mean, there is especially a big thing in America, but I mean, we do have it in European sports, but we just don't call it our franchise guy, or, we don't give out contracts that explicitly state it, but we all know it. That, I mean, if you look at Formula One, for example, Max Verstappen is Red Bull's poster boy. Ferrari's poster boy is supposed to be Charles Leclerc. Mercedes' poster boy at the minute, I would say, is Antonelli. McLaren's is Lando Norris. Alpine's is Pierre Gasly. Haas's at the minute is Oliver Behrman. You see what I mean? So, yeah. So, for example, at McLaren, Lando Norris would have to perform pretty poorly on a consistent basis to get dropped by McLaren. Rook saying Lawson received a warning for his weaving or moving in the braking zone. I think that's the right decision. The reason it was close between him and Hadjar was because Hadjar had such a fast closing speed because, again, of the battery difference. That's why it was really tight in terms of Lawson moving over, because they were going right into the braking zone. But Lawson, he thought he was safe. That's why he went to turn in. And that's the issue with the high closing speeds of these cars, is you just don't know anymore when you're safe from being overtaken, because you could be right, say 100 meters for the braking zone and think, right, I'm safe. And then suddenly when you're in the braking zone, you've been clearly overtaken. So it was tight, but I think, yeah, it was it was fair enough. KH says, I don't think Norris will win another championship. I agree. I think that championship last year will be his only title. But, even though we have, and I certainly have, given him plenty of criticism for not performing well enough in plenty of races, at the end of the day, he won the championship. Congrats to him. Yeah, he wasn't the best driver that season. He didn't win the most races that year, but at the end of the day, he won the championship. And I guess in terms of potential, or, his objectives for his career, he's done it. So whatever he does from now on is, just it's just an additional bonus, I guess you could call it, to what he has accomplished. I think one good thing for Lando, though, is that it does take a lot of pressure now off his shoulders, because now you can't say, oh, well, when's he going to win the championship and all of that. Now that pressure, especially for British drivers, has now shifted firmly onto George Russell, who, if Lando Norris can win a championship, I don't see why George Russell can't. But Russell, he's got a chance this year, and he's just not performing well enough. And that's why I would say, mostly why, he is 43 points behind after nearly half a season. But let me just read a couple more comments, and then we'll get on to this roundup quickly. Messi X7. Do you prefer this Silverstone layout or the old one with bridge corner? The old one. The old one that they had in the early 2000s. That one was magnificent. I would have loved to have seen these more modern cars go through that corner. That bridge corner, by the way, you can actually go and stand on that piece of racetrack, because it's now, because obviously they don't use it anymore. You can now walk under that bridge and now walk on that piece of tarmac where that corner used to be. Because when I went to Silverstone, for the 6 hours of Silverstone World Endurance Championship race, which was 8 years ago now. Feels like yesterday. Yeah, that was mainly where I was on I think the first day we were there. Because there was a load of old, like, classic cars they were showing off as well in that area. And yeah, it's an absolutely brilliant, corner. And it's a shame that we lost it, quite frankly. But I mean, the current Silverstone track is still very good, but it is not as good as the previous layout. Absolutely no chance. Talking of WEC, by the way, for any of you UK listeners or watchers, the World Endurance Championship, this has only been announced 3 weeks ago. The World Endurance Championship is returning to Silverstone. The 6 hours of Silverstone will be held next year on the final weekend of April, I think. The 23rd to the 25th of April, 2027. Tickets have not gone on sale as of yet, but I am very interested to see what the ticket prices are like. Because we know for the British Grand Prix for F1, it's absurd. It's like £500 for one person for a general admission for 3 days, which again is just ridiculous. So I'm very interested to see what the ticket prices are for that WEC race, because if they're not too bad, I might actually attend maybe one of the days or maybe the entire weekend if the pricing is doable, because I did enjoy my time at Silverstone when I went there for the previous WEC event in 2018. That, though, was held in August. As we know, the British weather in April is quite something, so might be an interesting one. I mean, toward the end of April, it tends to be a lot drier and sunnier anyway, especially in that part of the country, but yeah. Yeah, for you British fans, WEC is back. So, yeah, we'll see what the ticket prices are like. It would be hilarious if they do run the same ticket prices pretty much like they do for F1. I mean, to be honest, it'd be hilarious either way. Because it would show, if the ticket prices are a lot lower for WEC, it would show how it's actually a Formula One problem rather than a Silverstone issue. Because Formula One demands so much money in hosting fees from these circuits, and clearly they are trying to cultivate a certain type of audience in terms of the people that come to the track and actually watch Formula One in person. The people they want watching Formula One in person is the more middle class or richer types, because those are the ones who are actually going to spend money at the track, buying merchandise, buying, VIP or paddock pass stuff and all that. Those are the types of people they want. The people that have got more spare money. Brooks saying, nice, I'm getting back into work now. I have more time on my hands. Sao Paulo 6 hours next weekend. Yeah, I haven't checked out really anything this year. I know, was it last year they were was it Ferrari were really good last year? I think in WEC. But yeah, I haven't really checked out anything this year. But like I said, if the ticket prices are not too bad, I might just go up to Silverstone for that weekend. But we'll see what happens with that. Anyway, keep your comments coming, as we've got 20 minutes now to go until qualifying begins at a packed Silverstone. But let's just do a round by the teams and what they should be aiming for going into qualifying. For Mercedes-Benz, pole position is obviously what they should be aiming for. Antonelli is the only one, by the looks of it, who can take it. It's going to be a very close battle between him and Lewis Hamilton. Mercedes have got the better car, but have they got enough pace with Antonelli, that combination compared to Hamilton and the Ferrari to take pole? It's going to be super close. It's arguably too close to call, but I am going to stick with Antonelli. I think he will get pole position, but it is going to be hundredths, if not thousandths of a second to separate the two. Given how close it is between Antonelli and Hamilton, for George Russell, even if he is still 3.5, 4 tenths off the pace, he has to finish third. He cannot afford to be fourth or lower on the grid. He must be in third place so that he can at least set himself up for a good result tomorrow. For Ferrari, pole position at Silverstone is something they've got quite a few times over the last 20 years or so, and it is very much a possibility today. Their last pole at Silverstone was 4 years ago with Carlos Sainz. That was in a very wet Silverstone that particular day. And yeah, there is no reason why they can't take pole here. Lewis Hamilton is on fire. He's looking the best he's looked in years. And if he keeps this form up, there is no reason why he can't take pole. If he can, great. I'll be honest, if Ferrari have got any chance of winning the race tomorrow, I think they have to take pole position, because if they don't, then I think Antonelli pretty comfortably wins out tomorrow. So pole position, if you've got any chance of winning, is a must. For Charles Leclerc, if Russell is still struggling, then third on the grid he absolutely desperately needs, because Ferrari need 2 cars up there to get into the fight with Mercedes and to give Mercedes something to think about. And Leclerc, generally on pace, needs to improve quite a bit. The Red Bull, not that quick of a car this weekend, not as quick as I expected. Max Verstappen, though, we know is incredibly fast around this track. Last year took pole position amazingly with a Monza-style setup ahead of the 2 McLarens, which was just an incredible pole position, one of the best we've seen in the last few years. So again, we know the pace is there with Max, but it's just a matter of, in terms of whether they can end up third or fourth, it really depends on the performance level of Leclerc and Russell. If they're still performing as poorly as they have been so far, I think Max can take third. But if Leclerc and Russell improve, then fifth is probably where Max will end up. Keep an eye out for Isaac Hadjar. He's kept pretty close on lap time to Verstappen so far this weekend. Just a poor start in the sprint race is what cost Hadjar from being in the top 8. But for Max, definitely a big result is on for today. McLaren, of course, their home race as a team. Obviously, they've got a home driver in Lando Norris, but yeah, they're still not looking that quick. A great result in the sprint, but I don't think they necessarily had the pace to really deserve to be on the podium, to be honest. And I think that's why Lando Norris was so great in getting that podium, because the McLaren just didn't quite have the pace in clear, normal air over the course of that sprint. And in qualifying trim, they are looking, probably third row of the grid at best. They just don't have the pace of Mercedes and Ferrari. And the only team they can really battle is Red Bull. But again, if Max Verstappen can nail his laps in qualifying, Verstappen is going to end up ahead because he is the quicker driver. So as long as McLaren can get one car onto the third row and then the other car on the fourth row, then that's the best really they can do. Let's get into the midfield teams. Audi, again, I really thought they'd be a lot better this weekend, but they are nowhere near Racing Bulls. They are nearly a second a lap off the pace of Racing Bulls. Yeah, they look like they're going to end up probably 12th and 13th. Haas, maybe we'll see a bit of an improvement, compared to Williams. I mean, they did look a tad quicker than Williams in the sprint race, at least. But yeah, Haas look like they've got absolutely zero pace. Racing Bulls are clearly the fastest midfield team. If they don't end up 9th and 10th, that would be a disaster really for them. Alpine are the next best midfield team after Racing Bulls, but still losing half a second a lap to the Racing Bulls team. If they can get at least 11th with Gasly and Colapinto can be, say, 13th at worst, then that is realistically the best they can do. Williams, they did get both cars into the second part of sprint qualifying yesterday. If they can do that again today, then realistically, that's the absolute best they can do in qualifying. They still have a very slow car. Aston Martin, their car is dog shit. And Cadillac, keep an eye out for them. If Haas are still, really poor and quite slow, maybe Cadillac can split or even out-qualify Haas, which would be incredible to see. But here's a reminder of my top 10 qualifying prediction. I'm going Antonelli for pole, Hamilton second, and then Verstappen third, Russell fourth, Leclerc fifth, Norris sixth, Hadjar seventh, Piastri eighth, Lawson ninth, and Lindblad in 10th. As we have got, 13 minutes to go until qualifying, or just over 13 minutes. And I'll update the timer when it gets to the next minute, and there you go. So yeah, we are just over 10 minutes away from qualifying getting started. KH in the chat saying, be good for F1 if Hamilton gets pole and win. Absolutely it would. Astra saying, Ross has been disappointing this year. Seems Kimi's performances and run has just stunned him. Maybe to a degree, but I do think that, and we did say this in the last couple of years, despite Russell, performing really well, that, would he be able to keep this up when having the pressure of fighting for a championship? Because it's all great being super quick, having great performances and all of that when you've got no championship pressure on your shoulders. But when you suddenly have that on your shoulders, the best drivers get better, and the not so great, they the lights are too bright for them. And George Russell, it feels like that is what's going on. He just, under that pressure, he's just not able to deliver that consistent, great level of performance that we've seen the last, or say, 2 of the last 3 seasons from him. So I think it's a pressure thing, to be honest. Astra saying, love the special livery McLaren have. Yeah, I do as well. Let me just let's see if I can find it on these pictures. There you go. Actually, there's a better picture. This one. Yeah, the special livery, it's the reason it's this livery is because apparently this is the livery they had in their first ever Grand Prix. So, yeah, it's a beauty. If I just go back, you can see here with Piastri. Yeah, it's looks very nice in the sun. Sarah Gar says, do you guys think Button is the worst champion in the 21st century? No, I would give that title to Lando Norris. Jensen, in terms of raw pace, maybe Lando is, quicker than Jensen was at his best. Maybe you could argue that, but if you look at Jensen's championship season, he performed a lot better that year than Lando did in his championship season. So, yeah, Jensen, absolutely not the worst champion. Lando, for me, still is. Obviously, I made a video on it at the end of last year, but yeah, Lando Norris, I still think for this century, I'd say it's the worst, F1 champion we've had, and I'd say it's the worst F1 champion we've had since what? Villeneuve, Damon Hill, which was about 30 years ago. And maybe even, if you were to consider Damon Hill and Jacques Villeneuve better, you'd have to go back to what? Keke Rosberg, maybe? So, yeah. Lando, definitely not very high in my rankings for F1 champions. And yeah, Astro saying it's a tribute to Bruce McLaren, absolutely, as they should. Obviously, Bruce McLaren, the founder of the team. And of course, Astro agreeing that Norris is the worst champion of, let's say, recent history. And, recent history, I'd say, is the last, 25, 30 years. And yeah, I'd still stick with the, my opinion of, that I gave at the end of last season, that I do think he is the worst the last, say, 30 years. But, screw what I think. He is world champion. So, he's accomplished the dream. And he's the first McLaren driver to win a world championship, Drivers' World Championship, since Lewis Hamilton in 2008, which was now, 18 years ago. But, Sergor says, I'd say the worst is Phil Hill. Well, that's going back a long time. That's over, 60 years ago. But, yeah. I mean, if you were to compare Norris to every world champion since 1950, I don't think he would be the worst. I think definitely they'd be worse than him. Yeah, maybe Phil Hill, Denny Hulme, maybe Giuseppe Farina. People might argue Mike Hawthorne, but Hawthorne in his own right was a really good driver in his day. So yeah, but I don't know how many world champions exactly we've had in Formula One, but Lando is in the bottom tier, I would say, of world champions. The middle tier would be people like Raikkonen, PK, Mansell, Alonso, people like that. And yeah, Lando definitely not on that tier of world champion, let's say. 35 world champions, yeah. So out of the 35, Lando's probably what? In the bottom 5 or 6? I wouldn't say he's bottom, but I'd say he's probably like 29th or 30th out of the 35 or something like that. But yeah, we've only got now, 5.5 minutes to go. As you can see in the chat there, Rooks just posted the track conditions. Air temperature, 25 degrees Celsius, which is actually pretty cold for the southeast, given the weather we've had in the last few weeks. It was, almost 40 degrees Celsius a couple weeks ago. Track temperature, though, 44 degrees Celsius. So tyres will be giving up their grip in that final sector, given how hard the track does really pound these tyres. But let's have a look at a couple last bits of info before we get into qualifying for the British Grand Prix. And it will be another look at the championship standings going into this very important session. Kimi Antonelli, 43 points clear of George Russell. Can he deliver pole position for Mercedes? It would be Antonelli's first pole since Monaco if he was to get it. Russell in second, only 4 points clear of Lewis Hamilton in third. Can Hamilton get pole here at Silverstone? If Lewis Hamilton does get pole today, then he would start on pole for the British Grand Prix for the first time in 6 years. And 6 years ago, that race was the race where he won on 3 wheels. Lando Norris, the other home driver, in 4th in the championship now. See what he can do. Charles Leclerc 5th. Piastri 6th. Max Verstappen in 7th. Of course, Verstappen has took pole in 2 of the last 3 Grand Prix here. And then Isaac Hadjar in 8th, Pierre Gasly 9th, and Liam Lawson in 10th. And on the constructors' side, Mercedes 100 points clear now, Ferrari, McLaren in 3rd, Red Bull 4th, and then Alpine 5th. Racing Bull 6th, Haas 7th, Williams 8th, Audi 9th, Aston Martin 10th, and Cadillac, last of all, on 0 points. And Q1 should be underway in about 3 minutes or so. So I will sync up the timer for the 17-minute mark, which will be about a minute into Q1. And, of course, for the first part of qualifying, we will be eliminating the first 6 slowest cars. 4 of them, we know who they're going to be the 2 Cadillacs and the 2 Aston Martins. But who will the other 2 be? Will it be the 2 Haases again? Will it be the Williams? To be honest, it looks like it's going to be either Williams or Haas who will be occupying those final 2 positions of 17th and 18th in Q1. Alpine and Audi look like they're quick enough to avoid the drop. As, yeah, the grandstand's all packed, including the Lando stand. There's a Ferrari flag waving there, and the wind blowing quite strongly. Obviously, it is always at Silverstone windier than it is around Silverstone than it is normally at really any other place. And it's because, of course, Silverstone used to be an RAF base where the RAF jets would take off during the Second World War. So that's why this place is always quite windy. But once it was turned into a racetrack, what a racetrack it has been. Hosted the first ever Formula One race in 1950. And it is still hosting Grand Prix in 2026. 76 years on. As we're looking on the TV broadcast at the Mercedes of George Russell, and thankfully good timing, Russell pops up on the stream screen as well. There is Lando Norris in his garage. Norris has never took pole position at Silverstone. He was 3rd on the grid last year, and he was 3rd on the grid the year before. Closest he's got to pole was he was on the front row here 3 years ago. And 3 years ago, Max Verstappen was the one who took pole. And yeah, Max has took pole in 2 of the last 3 Grand Prix at this circuit. So do not count him out for getting, maybe not pole, but for getting a great result, because he is super quick around this circuit. Of course he will be, because this is more of a driver's circuit, and Max is the best driver on the grid. But we've already got cars queued up at the end of the pit lane. And the green light goes on, and we are underway for qualifying at Silverstone. Quite a bit of cloud cover, bit more wind, so the conditions not perfect, but still easily good enough. That's Cadillac coming out to track. Cadillac, by the way, have got a special livery. As now out comes Esteban Ocon, followed by his teammate and team leader, Oliver Behrman. And then the Aston Martin of Lance Stroll. And then an Audi, by the looks of it, after that. As I'll get the timer on screen in 3, 2, 1. And there you go. Let me just adjust the position. And yeah, actually, let me just adjust it a slight bit more. There you go. So 17 minutes to go in Q1. And as Rooks just said in the chat, C1, C2, and C3 tyres, 3 hardest compounds that Pirelli have got. Those are the 3 they've decided to bring. Tyre wear did not really seem to be an issue in the sprint, so I think we are going to have a 1-stop race tomorrow, unfortunately. I was hoping we would have a 2-stop, but yeah, it looks like a 1-stop race. So tyres not an issue really this weekend like we were expecting, and that's because Pirelli have brought they've got a step harder really than they should have. Sainz, bit of a snap of oversteer out of the final corner, and he now starts his first attempt at getting into Q2, and that's got to be the aim for Williams. As Bortoletto saying on the radio, or his engineer telling him it's very, very gusty on the start-finish line, as Sainz locks his inside front into turn 3 and goes off. Gets back on, and he's going to continue with this lap. But, yeah. Tyres clearly not up to temperature. As we're looking now at Oliver Behrman. I feel so sorry for Behrman. He's had such a great season, but he's now having to drive such a slow car. Again, 2 seconds they were off the pace of just racing bulls, never mind the front of the field. Haas need a big upgrade and a big reset, really, because fundamentally, I think this Haas car, it's a good car. They just need to figure out how to get the best out of it, and they just are not doing that. And, well, Oliver Behrman, you very much could see leaving this team very soon, especially if they keep up being as slow as they are. As Sergio Perez goes to the top of the timesheets. Carlos Sainz goes second, but it wasn't the proper lap for him. As here comes Oliver Behrman, who goes quickest on a 1:31.3. That is 0.3 slower than he went in sprint qualifying. So it's a decent first run, but it's nothing special. Definitely won't get him into Q2. As Ocon into second. Sergio Perez is third, and then Carlos Sainz is up to fourth. Well, not anymore because he had his time deleted, but Lance Stroll is now fourth for Aston Martin. As Lewis Hamilton's on a lap, he's in a purple first sector, of course he has. As Hulkenberg on the medium compound tyre, interestingly, has gone second. So Audi trying to save tyres. And what do you call it? A 1:31.5 for Hulkenberg. That's a decent lap. on that tyre as Leclerc goes quickest, much quicker than the other cars, 129.5. Lewis Hamilton's going to smash that, though. No, he doesn't. He goes second. A tenth of a second slower. So Leclerc quickest. Hamilton is second. And then it's Behrman third, Hulkenberg fourth, Ocon fifth, and then Perez sixth. Lawson has only gone seventh. I presume he made a mistake or something, probably, on his lap. So only 8 lap times on the board, as we've got just under 12.5 minutes to go in Q1. Pole position was a 128.3. So that was in sprint qualifying yesterday. So for today, I'd expect it to be a 127.8, maybe a 127.7. So in this session, the fastest lap times should be a late 1 minute 28. Because they do tend to improve by about a second, maybe just over a second from Q1 to Q3 at the front. So yeah, a late 128 I think is the best lap time you'll see in Q1. And to get through to Q2, you're going to have to do probably a mid 1 minute 30 at least to have a good chance of getting through. So yeah, Behrman on his lap of 131.3. That's nowhere near good enough. As Lando Norris goes third on a 130.1. Obviously, these are just the opening salvos for especially the front runners. Here comes Max Verstappen, who goes fourth. Isaac Hadjar goes fifth as we've got a yellow flag. And it's a Mercedes, I think. Is it a Mercedes? It looked like a Mercedes coloured dot on the track map. It is, it's George Russell. Has he crashed? Or is he out? What is going on? He's in the barrier / gravel. I think he might be out of this session. Or no, has he got going? Yes, he has. Crucial for George Russell. I thought he was stuck in the gravel then, but he's got going. That might have just saved his championship. Wow. We have got to see a replay of that. He was in the gravel at Brooklands, the slow hairpin type corner right before the old pit straight, and he's broken his front wing. Suggests he's touched the barrier. Here we go. So down. So no, it's Brooklands obviously first, and then Luffield. So he's gone off at Luffield. So into Luffield. Just carried too much speed, locked up, and then touched the barrier into the gravel. Yeah, he just carried way too much entry speed. Russell, very lucky, because if he had gone in maybe 10 mile an hour faster into that barrier, he'd be out the session. And he'd be starting last. Wow, that could have been a big moment. So he is still okay for now, but he will come back to the pits, and obviously new tyres will have to go on, and they'll have to repair the front wing, and who knows what other damage might have been done. As Piastri's up 7th, Hadjar is in 6th, Pierre Gasly is up in 8th, as Valtteri Bottas goes 13th, ahead of Sergio Perez. Yeah, Gasly, let me just update that he is in 8th place, as now Alex Albon is up to 8th. Big improvement from Albon. That's a fantastic lap from him. As Behrman goes up to 9th ahead of Pierre Gasly. Lindblad goes 4th for Racing Bulls. What a lap. The pace still very good in that Racing Bull car. As now Behrman has been pushed down to 10th. Gasly is 11th. Colapinto is in 12th place as Hulkenberg now goes up to 5th. Ocon goes 11th ahead of his teammate as Alonso goes 19th. Perez goes 16th. So Ocon is in 11th with 7 minutes to go, and then it's Behrman 12th. Sainz is 13th, and then it's Gasly 14th, Colapinto 15th, and Perez is in 16th, and currently he's on his way into Q2, but that is because Russell and Bortoleto have not done a lap time. Bortoleto, don't know why he hasn't done a lap time, but Russell, of course, we know why with him. Perez, though, surely is about to be dumped into the drop zone because Liam Lawson, who's in the drop zone, is on a lap. Bottas 17th, Lawson 18th, and then Alonso and Stroll 19th and 20th. As Lawson, let's see what lap time he can do. His teammate Lindblad has done a 1:29.8, and Lawson has it a 1:30.0 exactly. 1:30.000. So both Racing Bull cars safely through. In 4th and 5th at the minute, safely through to Q2. As here is a replay of the George Russell incident, and yeah, into Lovefield. I mean, you do want to attack the apex, but I mean, you just carried way too much speed in. Russell says that was very weird. I've never locked up there in my whole career. But to me, it looked like he just carried too much speed on the entry, and that's why he locked up. Maybe an issue with the brakes, who knows? But Russell is now back out on track. Fresh tyres, new front wing. Whether there's any other damage that's been done to the car, who knows? But also, he shouldn't be pushing that hard into Lovefield because I mean, it's Q1. That Mercedes is easily good enough to get into Q2, so I don't see why he should be pushing that hard into that corner. I mean, yeah, you could say, oh, he's got to generate confidence for Q3, but no need to take massive risks. As through turn 4 he comes, misses the apex a bit, so that would have given away probably a 10th or so. As he comes up to the first sector point, and he's actually slower than Colapinto for the first sector, so not a good start here. 4 minutes to go in Q1. Let's see what the middle sector's like before judging whether he's got any proper damage that's going to cost him or not. As Oscar Piastri, further behind, has just done a very strong first sector, 10th quicker than Charles Leclerc, who's currently quickest. I am expecting the front few cars to improve quite a bit on lap time in these final few minutes. As Russell for the middle sector, yeah, he's 7/10 up on Colapinto and should put it in the top 10, but it's still not that quick, to be honest. So I don't know if that accident has taken a big blow to his confidence, but yeah, it's not a very quick lap. that he's been doing, but he comes to the line anyway and goes 5th. And yeah, about in the end, quarter of a second away from his teammate. So Russell, let me just update that he is up to 5th. Well, he was. Oscar Piastri has now gone into 5th place. As Antonelli's on a new lap, but he's not improving. Max Verstappen's on a lap and he's improving. He's just coming through Maggots and Beckett's and Chapel. The best part of the Silverstone circuit, without doubt, that section. And yeah, Max, quarter of a second up on Leclerc. Looks like Max is going to go quickest with this run as Antonelli comes across. And third, Hadjar's going even quicker than Verstappen. Hadjar's just done a purple middle sector. Hadjar has been pretty quick this weekend. He was only a 10th slower than Max in sprint qualifying. And up to the line, Verstappen loses a lot of time in the final sector and he goes 2nd. But what about his teammate? Hadjar goes quickest. Quarter of a second quicker than Leclerc and nearly 3/10 quicker than Verstappen. So there you go. As we're looking here on board at Pierre Gasly. Podium sitter in Monaco. Sorry, podium sitter in Monaco. My throat will allow me to speak. But not getting anything near that at the moment. As he's currently down to 16th. We've got a yellow flag out there. Don't know who for. And it's gone away. As it was Colapinto at turn 13. I think turn 13 is Stowe. As Gasly comes to the line and goes only 12th. That lap time will be good enough, though. It's a 1:30.3, I think. And yeah, that should be good enough. Here comes Ocon. Stays in 14th on a 1:30.6. I'm not sure if that's going to be good enough. Behrman goes ahead of him. And up to 13th. Valtteri Bottas goes 17th. If I can push him properly up the order, there you go. As Lance Stroll, only 20th. Colapinto has come back into the pit, so he's out. Disaster for Colapinto. He's behind the Cadillac of Bottas. As you've got Sergio Perez in 19th. I don't know if Perez is still on a lap or not. I hope he is. Carlos Sainz up to 13th. He's through. Lindblad goes 5th. Lawson has done a purple first sector. And to the line, Lawson goes 2nd. Only a quarter of a 10th. Slower than Isaac Hadjar. So Hadjar and Lawson 1st and 2nd. Hulkenberg now up to 4th. As we're looking now at Alonso. Stays in 21st and is out qualified by Lance Stroll. What a disaster. As Bortoletto goes up to 12th. Finally puts in a lap. And that pushes Esteban Ocon down. And Perez stays in 20th. So Bortoletto is up to P12. And that means that, yeah, Esteban Ocon pushed out. But what a job by Valtteri Bottas. I know Colapinto made a mistake on his final lap, but he is out-qualified an Alpine, and he's 18th on the grid. So congrats to him. But Q1 is over. And let's go through, as that's a replay of what Colapinto did. It was actually at Beckett's. So go through Maggots, then into Beckett's, yeah, that I don't think that's a driver issue. He just lost the rear end, but I that's a car issue for sure. And he went bouncing quite heavily over the grass. Completely lost the rear when going flat out. So maybe the wind, I'm not quite sure, but yeah, that looked like a car issue to me. Anyway, Q1 is over and done with. Let's go through the drivers who've made it through to Q2. Hadjar, Lawson, Leclerc, Hulkenberg, Verstappen, Hamilton, Lindblad, Antonelli, Piastri, Russell, Norris, Bortoletto, Gasly, Sainz, Behrman and Albon. And knocked out in Q1, Esteban Ocon, Valtteri Bottas, Franco Colapinto, Sergio Perez, Lance Stroll, and Fernando Alonso. And Q2 will be underway shortly. Fernando Alonso last on the grid. He won this race 20 years ago. Now he's last on the grid. How time has changed. Of course, he won this race also in 2011, I think it was. A great drive that particular weekend. Only win Ferrari had that year. But now it is all about Q2. And who will be eliminated in this part of the session? Well, if Racing Bulls keep up their level of performance, which it looks like they are, I'm second and seventh in Q1, I think it's pretty much settled who's going to be knocked out. It's going to be Hulkenberg, Bortoletto, Gasly, Sainz, Behrman, Albon. The only thing to decide is in what order will they be eliminated. It's sad to say that because, you know, qualifying, normally Q2 is so exciting, but, you know, Racing Bulls, for some reason, are just so mentally quick right now. So, whilst that is the case, the other midfield teams have, playing catch up. If this does continue the way it is, though, with Racing Bulls, which I think it will, I mean, the next Grand Prix track we go to is Spa, which is pretty similar to this circuit, so I don't see why there wouldn't be the quickest midfield team there. You would still expect Alpine, Audi, Williams to an extent, but it depends really on what Williams are committing towards next year, because I would hope that Williams are really fully focusing on next year's car, which has to be much better than this year's car. But yeah, Audi and Alpine surely have got, a lot more improvement to make between now and, the end of the season. So those two teams you would expect to improve. Aston Martin have got a completely new car coming for the Dutch Grand Prix, but who knows whether it will be good or not. I mean, it might be a big improvement, but they might still be only like the 10th quickest car. So I don't know what would be considered an improvement necessarily for Aston Martin at this point. But yeah, for the moment, Racing Bulls have got clearly the best midfield car, and I think most likely it is up to Alpine and Audi to stop them. Audi, I think, is probably the one you'd expect the most to improve as the season goes on. Thing is, though, I mean, we're midway through the season pretty much, and Audi don't feel any quicker now than they were at the start of the season. So I was expecting not a massive step forward by this point, but I was expecting them to be maybe 2 or 3 tenths a bit further up ahead. than where they are. So hopefully they've got a big improvement, coming soon, because this season is not going to plan. Start Q2 will be delayed. Race control have said, and that is because they are sweeping gravel away from, I think, the exit of Luffield. So yeah, Q2 delayed. It won't be delayed for long. There's not a lot of gravel on the track. As on Sky F1, they're just showing a replay on the Sky pad of Colapinto's spin, and now they're showing Esteban Ocon through that section. I think they're showing that he is the next car after, and for some reason Anthony Davidson is showing the yellow flags. He's still trying to prove a point after the George Russell stuff last week. I think he's probably just trying to illustrate how Ocon's lap was ruined. But, I mean, Ocon's been slow all weekend, and the Haas car has been pretty slow as well. So, yeah. As the marshals are just sweeping away the gravel. And Esteban Ocon has now come up to the Sky pad. He's now been interviewed by Anthony Davidson. And they're now showing him back the incident. And I don't know how much more time he had in his tyres and in his car. But, maybe he would have got himself into 16th. But, I mean, even if that's the thing, that's how spread apart the midfield is at the minute. Even if Ocon had got into Q2, he probably only ends up a position or two higher. So does it really matter? I'm not sure it does. Rook's asking, not asking. Someone else was asking a question, but I'll get onto that in a moment. Gasly investigated for impeding after the session. I think we're about to see that incident. Yeah, it's on. Is that Stroll? I think it might be. Yeah, not great from Gasly, but I'm not sure he will get a penalty for that. KH asking, will Alonso retire this year? There are rumours that he's going to go back to Alpine, which, I mean, is likely to an extent because obviously Flavio Briatore is the team boss of Alpine now. Briatore is Alonso's agent. It's basically, his father figure in F1, so I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. That would be great for Alpine if that happened, but I think if you're Alonso, you may as well just retire. There's nothing else for him. He is cursed. As they've just announced race control. Q2 will start in 5 minutes' time. Alonso is cursed. So, he may as well just retire. There's nothing else for him to do. He's not going to win a championship. He's not going to win a race. It's over. Let's stop theorizing about if. Of course, if is F1 backwards. So, we could go on and on till the cows come home about possibilities, but the guy's cursed. So, that's why he can't win another championship. I was actually thinking about this the other day with Alonso, that when you look at all the decisions he's made in regards to, like, deciding to go to whoever team, most of them at the time was the right decision. Him going to McLaren in 2007 was the right decision. McLaren were one of the best teams on the grid, and it was his own stupid fault why he didn't win the championship that year, to be honest. Then he went back to Renault, which you can't blame him because he didn't trust anyone at that point. That's why he wasn't going to make the jump to Red Bull or Toyota at the time, because he didn't trust anyone. He wanted to go back where he knew, the team was for him. But then Renault were terrible. They had a midfield car. So then he very quickly then signed a contract with Ferrari. And when he signed that contract in 2008 for 2010, Ferrari at the time were the best team in Formula One. So again, at the time, it was the best and the right decision. But then, in hindsight, he didn't end up winning anything. The decision to leave Ferrari, though, was by far the worst decision that he made. Because even at the time, McLaren were pretty poor. And with the Honda project, there was absolutely zero guarantee of anything in regards to what McLaren could do. And he left. And Ferrari, if you actually go and look at that time period, Ferrari were absolutely happy to keep him on. But the reason they went for Vettel is because they were sick of Alonso umming and ahhing about whether he was going to stay or not. So then they decided, fuck it, we're going to sign Vettel and you can kick rocks. So that was, I think, the worst decision of them all. And then, him coming back to Alpine in 2020, or 2021 rather, it was the right decision. The best team he could have, gone with. And then going to Aston Martin, again, it was the right decision. Aston Martin were on the up. First year he was there, they were really good. And then ever since then, they've just got worse. So, I think with Alonso, the best way to describe his career is right place, wrong time. But Q2 will be underway in 30 seconds' time as Sergio Perez just had his lap time. He had a lap time reinstated there. I wonder if that's put him up a position. I just want to check. No, I don't think it has. It's kept him in 20th place. Anyway, 3, 2, 1. And there you go. 15 minutes to go in the second part of qualifying here at Silverstone. Talk about something else, brother. This is depressing. It is depressing, but yeah. I just wanted to point that out because that was something I was thinking about the other day, was actually when you look at it, most of the decisions he made was the right decision at the time. It's just, it became a bad decision. When he actually, got to race for those teams. But then again, with Alonso, if he didn't burn the bridge at McLaren back in 2007, he could have stayed there for a few years and probably had a better chance of being a world champion with McLaren than Ferrari in those few years. But that's all consigned to history now, as we've already got a couple cars on the track, and it's the 2 Red Bull cars. Red Bull were pretty quick in Q1. Isaac Hadjar, the quickest. As Max saying on the radio, this engine is not responding normal. Don't quite know what that means. Don't know if it's the battery or what. But yeah, not happy there is Max. But anyway, he is starting his first run in Q2. Let's see what pace Red Bull have got. As Verstappen, who took pole last year, starts his run into turn 3. And turn 4, those are the corners where Red Bull are giving away the time in the first sector. And then he blasts his way down. And a 28.5 for the first sector, which is good. And it's a 10th quicker than his teammate Hadjar. As Verstappen up to Copse, flat through Copse. Through Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. And yeah, Max on a decent lap. We'll see what it's like compared to Hadjar once Hadjar gets to his middle sector. Hadjar actually does a quicker middle sector by half a tenth. So the two Red Bulls again, close on lap time. As Max comes to the line and does a 1:29.3. As Isaac Hadjar, will he go quicker? Yes, he does, by just over a tenth. On a 29.1. If those times were done on used tyres, then that's actually pretty good pace from Red Bull. If that's on used tyres. As we're looking at Charles Leclerc, Ferrari do tend to use older tyres for their first run in Q2, but I don't know necessarily if they're doing that here. As Leclerc and Hamilton both quicker than the two Red Bulls in the first sector. But not as quick as Lindblad. Lindblad has gone purple. Quarter of a second up on Hadjar. Racing Bulls, they're getting even quicker. They're probably now joining that front pack at this point. Crazy stuff. As Leclerc, 4,000 slower than Hadjar for the middle sector. Hamilton, though, purple middle sector. Hamilton looking a couple tenths quicker, really, than Leclerc on this lap. Lindblad, still half a tenth up on Hadjar. As Leclerc through the final corner of Club. And he goes quickest on a 1:29.0. But here comes Lewis Hamilton. 2 tenths quicker, a 1:28.8. And that is a very, very good lap time. Lindblad goes 5th. Here comes Liam Lawson, who goes 6th. There's Antonelli complaining about no response from the pedal. I think he might be on about the brake pedal there, which he had issues with at the last Grand Prix. As Piastri battling through the final corner, and he only goes 7th. As here's Hulkenberg, who now goes 7th. So this shows how poor that lap was from Piastri. 1.1 seconds away from Hamilton, as now Bortoletto goes up to P7. As here is George Russell, who goes 2nd. Half a tenth slower than Hamilton. As Norris getting a big kick of oversteer out the final corner. And he only goes 8th. So I think both McLarens are on used tyres. I think that's pretty clear to see. Antonelli. That must have been an extra warm-up lap because he stayed in 15th. As here comes Pierre Gasly, who goes 11th. As here is Antonelli, presumably making a mistake. yeah, locks up into turn 3 and goes off, does exactly what Carlos Sainz did. So yeah, that's what he was on about with the pedal. As Hulkenberg's had his time deleted, so Piastri is back into the top 10. So it's Gasly 11th, Behrman 12th, and then Sainz 13th, Albon 14th, and then Hulkenberg and Antonelli haven't done a proper lap time. Antonelli, though, is on a lap, but this is on a couple lap extra used tyres, so I'm not expecting this to be super quick. It'll be quick enough to get him into Q3, but not quick enough to go quickest. As through the chicane, not the greatest run there. And he goes third. Pretty good lap considering, just under 2/10 off. Pretty good lap considering, again, he was on that was a second run on that compound. So, Hamilton on top. Half a tenth quicker than Russell, his ex-teammate, and then Antonelli third, the man who replaced Hamilton at Mercedes, as Russell asking, can you get the spare seat? So, looks like they're changing the seat there for George Russell. And then it's Leclerc fourth, and then the two Red Bulls fifth and sixth. Red Bull, though, I do feel like those might have been done on older tyres. I don't know why. I just get that feeling. As Piastri says, I just have zero grip. Lindblad 7th, Lawson 8th, and then Norris 9th, Bortoletto 10th, Piastri 11th. And then Gasly 12th, Behrman 13th, Sainz 14th, Albon 15th, Hulkenberg 16th. I'm pretty confident McLaren were on used tyres for their first run there, because Norris even was, only in 9th. So I expect a big improvement. As Astra saying on the chat, Lindblad looked better than Lawson at the start of this year, but hasn't quite delivered on that early promise, but could be changing that from here soon. I think he's had a good season. The last couple races, maybe you could say he's benefited from how quick the car is, but debut season, I think he's having a good year. I wouldn't say he's doing anything spectacular, but he doesn't need to. Arvid Lindblad, nobody thought that this guy was going to be, the next Max Verstappen or Kimi Antonelli or, George Russell level of driver. So I think for the level he's at, I think he's doing a great job. Lindblad, talent-wise, I think the best he can be is a number 2 driver at a top team. That is the level we're looking at. A Valtteri Bottas when he was at his peak type of guy. And again, there is nothing wrong with being like that or having a career like that. So yeah, Lindblad doing a great job. And of course, this is also his home Grand Prix. And he's doing brilliant. And maybe if Max does leave Red Bull, maybe a pretty decent chance he'll be at Red Bull next season. As Max Verstappen doing a fantastic lap. And yeah, Red Bull definitely were on used tyres for that first run, because Max nearly a 10th up on Hamilton after the first 2 sectors. Through the final chicane. What will the time be for Verstappen? He loses a lot of time in the final sector. It's only a 29.1. Max and Red Bull really losing a lot in that final sector. Hadjar now goes ahead of Verstappen by half a tenth. to 5th. But I do feel like there is more there in that Red Bull. They just got to find a better way in that final sector. I don't know if it's that final chicane that is hurting them, but yeah, they're losing too much time. I mean, Max lost. He lost about 3.5 tenths in the final sector alone. And Max, just on the radio there, just said, "What a disaster." So there is good pace there. They just need to find a way to unlock it fully. As here is Oscar Piastri with now 2 minutes and 40 seconds to go in Q2. Surely he will get through to Q3. As his teammate Norris is also stopped in the lap as the Alpine Gasly gets out of the way of Piastri. Yeah, Piastri nearly 2 tenths up on Bortoleto through the first sector. Piastri really should have won this Grand Prix last year. Was robbed, in my view, of the race win. As Lindblad is on a new lap. He's not improved his first sector, but still quicker than Hamilton by a tenth and a bit. That Racing Bull car so quick in the first 2 sectors especially. Piastri only a tenth and a half up on Bortoleto after the first 2 sectors. This is not a good lap. Not a good lap at all. And to definitely get into Q3, you've got to do, I'd say, a 29.5 at least. What's the lap time? Well, it's a much better final sector. He goes 7th on a 29.2. I think that should be good enough now. But yeah, it wasn't looking good for a bit as Norris goes 9th on a 129.3. Thankfully for McLaren, the rest of the midfield is that far behind. I think they'll be fine as Lindblad stays 8th. Here comes Liam Lawson on an improved lap. Where does he go? He stays in 10th, but it's a 29.4. And yeah, Bortoleto is half a second away in 11th place. As Leclerc, brilliant lap from him. 28.6, and he goes quickest as Hamilton does a lap but stays 2nd. Oliver Behrman stays in 13th. Carlos Sainz stays in 14th. As Gabriel Bortoleto comes to the line. Oh, he was so close. 0.03 of a second away. That's a brilliant lap from Bortoleto, but he's just missed out as Albon goes 15th. As Antonelli's on a good lap. I don't know if Hulkenberg is out there on a lap. He should be. Gasly is as well. But, oh, that's such a shame as Hulkenberg goes 12th. So 11th and 12th for Audi. Again, 11th for Audi. They just cannot escape it. As what a lap by Antonelli at 128.4. That is incredible pace from the Mercedes. As Pierre Gasly splits the Audis into 12th. But Audi, again, 11th place is their destiny. They miss out on Q3. But what a lap from Kimi Antonelli. And it's going to take some driver, possibly the GOAT, to beat that Mercedes to pole position. But Q2, guys, is over and done with. Let's go through the results and who has made it into Q3. So making it into Q3, Kimi Antonelli, Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, Isaac Hadjar, Max Verstappen, Oscar Piastri, Arvid Lindblad, Lando Norris and Liam Lawson. And knocked out in Q2, Gabriel Bortoleto, Pierre Gasly, Nico Hulkenberg, Oliver Behrman, Carlos Sainz and Alexander Albon. And Q3 will be underway in, 3 or 4 minutes' time. And, yeah, I still think the fight is between Antonelli and Hamilton. Hamilton, yes, slower than Leclerc on that occasion, but Hamilton did not improve his final lap in Q2, so I think definitely there's more pace in there. And Antonelli, with that lap in Q2, that was nearly as quick as he went in sprint qualifying yesterday. So, yeah, we'll see when we get going what goes down. But let me finish up the poll in the chat that's been running for a few hours and read out the results to see who you guys have voted for. So thank you guys for voting. 439 votes on the poll asking who will take pole position at Silverstone today. And 56% of the vote has gone to Lewis Hamilton. 6% for Antonelli, 12% for Verstappen, and 6% for George Russell. Again, it's too close to call as to whether I agree with that or not. But again, if Hamilton does take pole, I would not be surprised. But I think the only one who can stop Hamilton getting on pole is Antonelli, and kind of vice versa. The only one to stop Antonelli is Hamilton. A great battle we're seeing between Kimi and Lewis, who have been, I think most people would agree, probably the two best drivers of 2026. And they're about to do battle for pole position at Silverstone, something that is coveted but not critical. We've seen plenty of races here at Silverstone won outside of pole position. Lewis Hamilton even has won the British Grand Prix many times outside of pole position. 2008, 2014, 2019, 2021, 2024. So, yeah, it's very much doable to win the Grand Prix from outside pole position and even outside the front row. As Q3 will start, they've just let us know, will start in about 2.5 minutes from now at 5 to 5 local time, which of course is my time for once. As we're looking at Arvid Lindblad in his garage. And yeah, great job on Lindblad getting to Q3. And so far in qualifying, he's looked quicker than Lawson. So maybe he can get 9th on the grid. That'd be great for him. And yeah, we're just over 2 minutes away. And one thing to look out for is Rooks, I think, just saying there in the chat. McLaren looking a bit under threat from Racing Bulls, who are looking really, really competitive. So keep your eye on that if McLaren do not quite get their best lap together. But yeah, McLaren have been, for the last few races, consistently the slowest of the front four teams, and no surprise that is continuing here. That's why Lando's 3rd place in the sprint was such a great drive. And like I said in my podcast that I did on Monday after the Austrian Grand Prix, I don't see it changing until at least we get to Hungary, which is a track I think that suits the McLaren car. But they're going to need a big upgrade if they're going to move themselves properly into that battle for podiums and even fighting for race wins. As the grandstand's absolutely packed out at Silverstone, which looks windy but hot. as we are, I think, almost ready to go for Q3. And all the main players just looking through their telemetry and mentally preparing for the battle ahead. As Q3 has now started. I'll sync up the timer at the 12-minute mark, which is in about 45 seconds from now. There are so many drivers on the grid in the top 10 that have took pole here before. Verstappen, Hamilton, Russell, obviously Alonso lower down the field, Carlos Sainz. It's not a track that is necessarily dominated by one driver. I mean, Lewis Hamilton, of course, a few years ago, but in the last few years, it's been shared out quite a bit. Of course, Valtteri Bottas, another one, who has taken pole at Silverstone 7 years ago. And there you go. 12 minutes to go in qualifying. Who will take pole position at Silverstone? We're about to find out. As Lewis Hamilton, the most successful driver in the history of this Grand Prix event, has been released from his garage. What does he have for these British fans? He pleased them yesterday. He has a good record of pleasing the home fans, and can he deliver once again? The greatest qualifier of all time, statistically, has a pole position in his sights as all of the top 10 slowly come out onto the track. Including the two Racing Bull cars. So clearly they saved enough tyres. They're that quick. Racing Bulls, they were able to do that. As we look here at Lewis Hamilton, him just coming through turn 3 and 4 as the two Mercedes cars have only just been released from the garage, so they're going to be going a bit later in terms of completing their first run. Is there anything George Russell can do here? He's been consistently a bit off the pace of his teammate Antonelli. Antonelli has been the main man at Mercedes. Won the sprint. Was so close to pole position in sprint qualifying. Can he take pole position at Silverstone? It would be his first pole since the Monaco Grand Prix, of course. But here is Oscar Piastri. And let's witness his first attempt at pole position. As turns into turn 3 with the rear end moving around quite a bit. Not enjoying the stability that they had last year, especially on the rear end. As first sector is good, but it's not going to be the best. I'm sure there'll be others who go quicker than that. As Piastri exits Luffield onto the old pit straight. His teammate Lando Norris is about to complete the first sector. We'll see what his first sector time is. It's actually slower than Piastri by a 10th. So good start to the lap here for Oscar. And middle sector, not great in terms of time, but it'll be the first one to meet the flag. Or not the first one to meet the flag, but the first one to get to the finish line on this first run. Pole position, I still think, will be a late 1 minute 27. So let's see what this lap time is from Piastri. It is a 1:29.2. That is pretty slow. As Lawson pits. Here comes Lando Norris into the final chicane. Leclerc is 6/10 up on Piastri for the first two sectors. McLaren are nowhere on pace as Norris goes second. Just confirming that McLaren have no pace. Here is Max Verstappen. Goes quickest, but only by 0.08 of a second. These lap times are not very quick. Here is Charles Leclerc. That's a lot more like it, a 1:28.6. He goes quickest. Lewis Hamilton. He goes quickest by 0.03 of a second. But what about Antonelli, who's done a purple middle sector? Isaac Hadjar comes to the line. He goes third ahead of Verstappen. Hadjar at this rate, he is going to out-qualify Verstappen. Antonelli, though, to the line. Goes quickest by 0.2 of a second. A 1:28.3 as Russell goes second. It's a Mercedes front row lockout for now. And that is the first time this weekend that Russell has shown the pace that he needs to. And it's right on time with 7 minutes to go in qualifying and 1 run to go. Antonelli on provisional pole by 1/10 ahead of Russell. Hamilton third, 0.2 off. Leclerc fourth, about 0.03 behind his teammate. And then Hadjar fifth, Verstappen sixth, Piastri seventh, Norris eighth, and Lawson and Lindblad have not done a lap time. It's 2 by 2 by 2 when it comes to the teams. Mercedes front row, Ferrari second row, Red Bull third row, McLaren fourth row, Racing Bulls fifth row. As, Hamilton messed up the loop part of the lap. That's turn 3 and 4, if you're wondering. And that lap time, what's important to remember if you're a Ferrari fan or a Lewis Hamilton fan, is that lap from Antonelli that has him on provisional pole, that is not as quick as Lewis Hamilton when in sprint qualifying. So, there is definitely more pace in that Ferrari car. And if Antonelli does not improve, or Russell does not improve, then Hamilton has definitely still got a very good chance at taking pole position. There is still one chance left. And how many times have we seen Hamilton on a final lap deliver pole, especially here at Silverstone? As they all now come back into the pits, be refueled and retired, as in new tyres, not retire from the session. As both Racing Bull cars have not set a lap time. I think they will go out again and set a lap. I mean, with the lap that Verstappen, Piastri, and Norris have done, if they don't improve, Racing Bulls could maybe jump up a couple positions compared to where they really should be. As we're looking at Liam Lawson in his garage. Driving like a man possessed this year. I don't know what's got into him, but it's very good, whatever it is. He's having an amazing season. He's been one of the top few drivers this season. As there is Oscar Piastri, currently ahead of his teammate, but McLaren 8.5 off pole. Surely they could improve on that. McLaren, yesterday in sprint qualifying, did a 1:28.7. If they did that now, then they would be 5th. So, definitely a lot of improvement can be made. Same for Red Bull and for Ferrari. Mercedes, I think I've got the least amount of lap time improvement left in them compared to the other 3 front runners, and that's what makes this final run so exciting, because even though it is the way it is at the moment, it could be very different in 3.5 minutes. As Antonelli released from the box, so Mercedes are going out a bit earlier. than they did last time. And Antonelli looks like he will lead the pack. As unsafe release there. One of the Racing Bull cars nearly colliding with the McLaren. Normally those would just result in a fine, so that I don't think that's going to be a penalty or anything. As, yeah, they're just slowly, the front runners trundling out the pit lane. As a Red Bull at the back has stopped in the fast lane of the pit lane, but I don't think he's actually stopped. I think he's just trying to give himself a gap. But yeah, Antonelli, the man on provisional pole, he will be the first one to cross the line at the end of this session. Will that cost him? One thing it does mean is that if Antonelli doesn't make a mistake and does a good final run, he won't be affected by yellow or red flags by, you know, other drivers having an accident, which of course is what happened last week. So maybe that's why Mercedes have sent him out first. And before we get into this final run, I'm just going to have a sip of water. As we've got 2 or just under 2 minutes now to go. And we are looking at the young Italian, Kimi Antonelli, the championship leader by 43 points. If he takes pole here, it could be a big step towards a maiden world championship towards the end of the season. And here he goes. He starts his final attempt to hold on to pole position. Flat through turn 1 and 2. Now into 3 and 4. And the Mercedes car looking good. The next car behind Antonelli is Lando Norris. As Antonelli, what's his first sector like? It's good. It's half a tenth quicker. As Norris, only half a tenth slower than Antonelli, so a good first sector for him. Much better from McLaren, at least to start the lap. Antonelli now flies through Copse. As now through Maggots, Beckett, and through Chapel. What's his middle sector time? It's a purple one. It's 700ths up on his previous best. It's a good lap, but is it good enough? As Lando has now dropped half a second to Antonelli in the middle sector. McLaren just miles off the pace. Antonelli through the final chicane. To the line. Is it pole for the youngster? It very well could be. It's a 1:28.111, the fastest lap time of the weekend so far. That's going to be very hard to beat. Lando Norris goes 6th. Not great from Norris, but that's mainly because of the McLaren car. His teammate will be crossing the line soon as Lindblad stays in 9th, 1:29.3, only slightly slower than Piastri. Piastri, though, on a new lap coming to the line, goes 7th behind his teammate as Russell has not improved his first or second sector. So disaster for Russell as Lawson stays 10th. Lindblad outqualifies his teammate. Here comes George Russell. Stays in second. He doesn't improve his lap time. That could be very costly as Leclerc has got a purple first sector. Verstappen, only 7th. He's been outqualified by Hadjar. Leclerc goes 2nd. Nearly 2 tenths down on Antonelli, and Hamilton only 3rd. Oh no. As Isaac Hadjar goes 5th and looks like he's pretty angry with himself, but he's outqualified his teammate and he's 5th on the grid, so it's not that bad. Hamilton just didn't improve his final lap, and he ends up behind his teammate, and Kimi Antonelli is on pole for the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. And I am very confident that he is going to win the British Grand Prix. The Mercedes car is the quickest car. There's no doubt about that. And his main challenger is behind his teammate in third. And Russell, Antonelli's teammate, only fourth. Russell just not getting it together on the final lap. And he is only fourth. So that is a brilliant result for Antonelli. And if it stays the way it is, he'll be potentially 56 points clear of Russell in the championship. If Antonelli wins and Russell finishes in fourth. His fifth pole position of his career. First pole since Monaco. Congrats to Kimi Antonelli. And also, congrats to Charles Leclerc. Getting ahead of his teammate onto the front row. That is, much better from him. But can he avoid what happened in Austria, which is a terrible race pace and terrible race performance? We'll have to see. But let me just ask you guys who your driver of the day is for qualifying at Silverstone. As Astro says, you were right, Chaz. Piastri 8th with Hadjar ahead. True, but Hadjar I did not think would be 5th on the grid. That is incredible. That is, yeah. I think it's pretty clear at this point to say Isaac Hadjar is a demon in qualifying. He is incredibly quick. Anyway, let's go through this driver of the day thing. So your options for driver of the day will be Antonelli, Leclerc, Isaac Hadjar, and I'll put Arvid Lindblad in there as well, who outqualified his teammate. So there you go. Let me know. Who is your driver of the day? For me, it would have to be Kimi Antonelli. That was such a good Q3. 2 super quick laps, improved by, what was it, a quarter of a second in Q3. That was just a clear example of what you have to do in Q3 to get pole. 2 quick laps, start off quick to, hurt your opposition mentally and then improve just by enough in the final lap to make sure that you get the pole. And that's exactly what he did. So Kimi Antonelli on pole, and like I said, I think he'll win tomorrow's race. If I was to do a prediction for the race now, considering I'm not doing a watch along tomorrow, I'd say Antonelli, I think, will win. And then I'll go Hamilton second and Russell third. I think that'll be your podium. And then Leclerc fourth. And then there'll be a battle between the Red Bulls and McLarens for 5th down to 8th. But Rook's saying, when, if ever, did you have did you last see Max 4/10 back in Q2 and 2/10 back on his teammate Q1? Yeah, it's been not since the days where he was Ricciardo's teammate. Have we seen anything close to it? But just let me know your drive for the day. Again, I'm going Antonelli, but again, shout out to Leclerc for getting ahead of Hamilton around Hamilton's best track, one of his best tracks, obviously home track. Hadjar again, shout out him out qualifying Max Verstappen genuinely on pure pace. A shout out to Lindblad, Bortoletto as well. I thought Bortoletto did a great lap, nearly getting into Q3. Astro asking, what's up with Piastri? Nothing. He's just slower than Lando. I mean, he was quicker than Lando here last year, but I mean, it was only by a small amount. Yeah, about 10th and a half slower. It's not that much. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with Oscar. It's the car. It's way too slow. It's not anywhere near where they need to be. I do get the feeling with McLaren that they are, they want to bring a big upgrade to push them a bit forward this year. But I do get the feeling they've already got an eye on next year's car, because I think they have accepted at this point that, this car just hasn't worked. I think fundamentally it just wasn't a good car from the off. They've improved it, but yeah, they just fundamentally got it wrong. But we know this team can improve quite a lot with upgrades and over the course of a winter. So and yes, Astro is saying shout out to Bottas in the Cadillac, 18th. But even though there's only been 11 votes, I think I'll finish up the poll because there's already a pretty clear winner. 64% for Antonelli, 36% for Hadjar, and 0% for Leclerc and Lindblad. But guys, that is it for this qualifying watch along. Thank you guys for coming along to the stream. Again, there won't be a race watch along tomorrow, so hopefully you guys enjoy the race. Remember though, I will be doing my podcast on Monday, so make sure to check that out. I'll be Monday evening, that's uploaded. And then remember, next Grand Prix at Spa, I am pretty likely going to be doing both a qualifying and race watch along. I'm not going to guarantee it as of yet because I just need to work out my schedule. But yeah, there's a pretty good chance I'm going to be doing a quali and race watch along for the next one at Spa in 2 weeks' time. So yeah, thank you guys for coming along for this stream. Before you go, if you are new, make sure to subscribe for more content like this. Make sure to smash the like button before you go. And thank you all for coming along to this qualifying stream today. And until my podcast on Monday, reviewing whatever craziness happens tomorrow, hopefully you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. And until that podcast on Monday, and until my next stream, which will be in 2 weeks' time for qualifying at the Belgian Grand Prix. And as usual, I'll be live 90 minutes before qualifying starts. Until then, guys, it's been me, Chazza HD. Goodbye.